getting your business exit ready and why you as a business owner should care. Let's take a listen. Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchtime Series with me, Kevin Britz, leading the charge with insights, information, and ultimately effective results. Joining me in today's leadership and coaching segment is a dynamic entrepreneur, business coach, and podcast host with over 30 years of hands-on experience transforming businesses. As the founder of Simplifying Entrepreneurship, the host of a business owner breakthrough podcast, Pete specializes in guiding entrepreneurs from being overworked operators to becoming freedom-focused owners. Pete Mohr, welcome to the show, and thank you for your patience today.
Thanks for that tongue twister. Sorry, I'm sorry about that too, Kevin. It's a lot of words there. But no, it's great to be here with you and with the listeners. I'm excited for our conversation ahead, and I think it's going to be a good one.
Absolutely. Pete, so just to kick it off, I always just share with people, tell us more about you and more about what you do.
Well, you heard a little bit in the intro there. In the fall, I celebrated 30 years of being in business. And I'll tell you, Kevin, it goes by quick. It's an incredible thing. And I've had businesses in the service industry, have had retail businesses, have owned franchises, have sold franchises, have been a business broker, helping other people buy and sell businesses. We still own a couple of shoe stores here in Canada. And I spend about a day a week or so with the shoe stores and the rest of my time coaching other entrepreneurs from going from operator to owner in their business so they can enjoy a better business and a better life, and just love having these chats with entrepreneurs and talking business. And, you know, when I look back at why I'm doing what I'm doing today, it's because I want other business owners to actually enjoy their lives, not just have their business and that is their life. The sort of philosophy of almost everything that I talk about really and coach to is this idea that your business should prop up the life that you want to live as opposed to you propping up the business all the time. So that's essentially my 30 years of doing all this stuff. And I still love doing this stuff. I love selling shoes and I love being with my customers and everything, but I don't want to have to do it all the time, every day, and make every little decision.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, 30 years is that's quite the feather in your cap. I mean, and it comes with challenges. You know, I've had my own business for the last 10 years, and people often ask me, so, yeah, I want to get into this coaching business. I want to start doing my own thing, and I'm always like, don't do it.
It's not for everybody. You know, everybody has this. People that aren't business owners just think that being a business owner is easy and it's like it's all good and everything. But there's ups and downs, lots of them. We've had several over our time as business owners, my wife and I, and you know, we've had some downs. We've had to sell the cottage to pay some bills. You know, we had to. You know, we've been there. And we've risen again. And these are sort of your common entrepreneurial stories. But when you've been at it for a few years, you're going to go through some hard times. You're going to go through some good times. And those ups and downs aren't for everyone. It's just, you know, entrepreneurism isn't for everyone. And that's okay for those that aren't of that irk. But for those that are, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I've enjoyed my run as a business owner, and I continue to be one for a very long time.
And I think as you're speaking through that, you know, like the hard times, I think that's probably one of the reasons why I often say, you know, to people, don't do it, is part of that resilience that we need for what we're doing, and, you know, getting up in the morning and doing it again, and absolutely 100% believing in it. You know, that's really a large part. In my instance, I would say up to 80% of what it takes to actually have a business, because it's really the ongoing self-motivation that you actually need to have. The rest of itself, you know, sorts itself out. But if you don't get up with that attitude and conviction, it becomes really difficult.
Confidence is such a big piece. And I think listening to podcasts like this, Kevin, help us, because the small business owner typically doesn't have anyone to chat with every day, right? And here's the thing, their partner at home doesn't want to hear about it anymore. It's like, gosh, is that all we ever talk about? Their friends, if they aren't business owners, they don't really get it. They don't really understand it. And the people at work, well, as much as you say, I have an open door policy and let's talk about stuff, you're still their boss. And there's still a little bit of sort of not maybe completely open conversation. So who do you talk to and who is there to listen and all of these sort of things? So, using a coach like you, Kevin, or like me, whatever the case is, listening to these podcasts and getting other people's opinions on things to help you get your mindset around what you need to do to better your life and business is such a crucial part for the small business owner that doesn't have those networks and build those networks or be involved in a mastermind group or have those close relationships with other business owners that they can just banter around different ideas and use them as a board of directors.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such a significant point because, and it's something I've gone through and thankfully have been able to get on the other side of that. As a business owner, and with a bit of pride comes, well, I don't want to have to look like I'm not making it happen. I'm struggling or I'm having a bad day until you find your tribe and you find, a coach, a necessary expert, someone who can hash through it with you. It is the challenge. But on the flip side of that, there's so much reward that comes with having your own business.
It's just a great life. I mean, when I look at all these things, I know, part of our conversation today is getting your business exit ready. But the other part of that is that your business should always be exit ready. And when your business is exit ready, then essentially it's at a point where you can do the things that you love to do the most in your business. And that's the power of being a business owner. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes grind. It takes getting up in the morning. It takes sleepless nights. It takes all of the different things that you need to do. It's not just, I'm there.
Yeah.
You got to do the work, but doing the work with purpose and doing the work in a way that systematizes things and builds your business with purpose is what we're talking about here. So that when you have that business running on the rails, it's working for you. You're not working for it.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's a business term already. You're working on your business, not in your business. And very often that's one of the things that most business struggle with is getting to grips on how to work on that business. And you mentioned part of that process is things that, so when you're not there, it's taking care of itself. Don't you, just before we move into an actual exit, the exit ready position, what are some of those things? I mean, systematizing, getting the right staff, getting the right people, getting the right frame. Like there's so many things that people should be aware of. What are some of those things that you can sort of alert and remind us of to really move into this next phase of how do we start doing this better?
Yeah. I've got a couple of key pieces. One I wrote a little book on called The Business Owner Breakthrough. And that's the 5P structure. And the 5P structure really is this, which aligns pretty much with what we were talking about. It's really understanding your promise, which is understand your client's pain, how you take them through it so that they have a better life, right? I mean, there's all kinds of, I've done whole podcasts on just these different pieces, but the idea really here is understand the promise. And the promise is not your mission. It's not your vision. It's not the inwardly facing stuff. It's the stuff you shout out to the clients in the world telling, this is what I do. I can relieve your issues through our process in order to give you a better life, because everybody buys a better life. When they see a better life, they will write the check or hand you the credit card or do whatever it is to transfer that money. But when we have that promise nailed down, which is essentially your slogan for your business, then we have to align the other 3 Ps, which are your process, your product, and your people to that, so that you have the right amount of profit. And when we start off with your product, or if you're a service-oriented business, your service, we need to make sure that the product or service is in full alignment with the promise. And sometimes the promise is really old and the product is new and it doesn't align. Sometimes the product, it's the reciprocal where we're redoing and we're seeing shifts in our business. So we have to change our promise, but we have old products, so we need to realign that. Your services and your product need to be in alignment with what you're offering and how you're taking your client through. And with the rapid rate of change these days in the world, we need to be updating these two regularly. The next piece is the process or the system, right? And the process really needs to prevent recurring overwhelm for all of the people involved. That's the pro in process. It's prevent recurring overwhelm, because that's what process does. It takes you through the overwhelm. It allows other people to take on the authority of whatever piece of the puzzle that is without your involvement. And that's a big piece. If you're involved in every business decision, and every small decision, decisions cannot be made at the lowest possible level of the business then. And that's what needs to happen in order to satisfy your customer. Decisions need to be made at the very lowest part of the business. Think about it at our shoe stores. If somebody came in, and everybody's bought shoes who's listening to this show, if you bought a pair of size 10 because you were in a rush and you ran into the store and say, I'm always a size 10, you just pick them off the shelf and say, okay, I'm ready to go. You got home and you found out they're too small. So you go back to get the size 10 and a half or the size 11. And the sales representative there says, I just sell shoes. I can't return them. The assistant manager needs to do that. Give me a sec. I'll go get the assistant manager. So the assistant manager comes over and she says, those are new. We're having a problem with New Balance these days, and I'm really not sure. And the store manager isn't in till Monday. Can you come back on Monday when the store manager is in? Meanwhile, you're seeing the size 11 on the shelf and you're saying, why can't I just get it? It's right there. When we talk about the different areas of process, these kind of process things happen in businesses all the time and cause confusion, not only for the people within the business, but for the customer. And that's the problem. The decisions need to be made at the lowest possible level of the operational chart any given time, so that the customer can enjoy the benefits of going through that promise in the easiest way possible. And there's lots more in process and system, of course, but the next P is people. And people, we need the alignment with these three different types. And I know you've talked about these before, but I'll go through it again. Your ideal client, your ideal teammate, and your ideal supplier that helps deliver your promise. So if you're a retailer like me, that might be the brands that you hold in your store, but it might be your bookkeeper, it might be your marketing agency, it might be your human resources team, it might be anybody else. It might be the cleaning company in your business that makes sure that everything is spotless and clean for you and your clients. All of those outsourced suppliers need to be in alignment with the promise. Because once we have the alignment of the product, the process, and the people to the promise, the profit comes. And when the profit comes, that's when you have a decision to make, which is, do I want more time? Which means I'm going to hire other people to take on more of the decisions that I'm making right now. Do I want more money? And what do I want to do with the profit? Do I want to give it back to charity? Do we want to look into another business? All of the different decisions only come, and you only start thinking from your owner's mindset once the profit's there. Because until the profit's there, all you're doing is trying to put out the fires and getting to a profitability point where you can start looking at this stuff. But the idea here is, even if you are at that earlier stage, you need to have some thought process around what you will do once you're there, because that helps develop your promise. It helps develop the type of clients you want, the type of team you want, the type of suppliers you want. It helps develop your process in order to get there, so that when you're there in a profitability state, then you can make the decisions as the business owner to do what you want to do. That's your prerogative. That's why you became a business owner, so that you can choose to do what you want to do. And up until then, which are those startup years, it's like all hands on deck and let's just go. And I mean, that's a normal thing for most startups, is that we are all hands on deck until we get to that level.
High-performing teams don't just happen, they're built. And at the core of every successful team is a contagious identity. It's more than teamwork, it's a mindset. It's about creating a culture where collaboration is second nature, innovation thrives, and every member steps into their true potential. When teams embrace the correct mindset and contagious identity, they tap into something bigger, a shared purpose, aligned values, and an unstoppable moment that drives high-performing teams. Because when identity is contagious, Every team member plays with passion and owns their impact, and thrives in an environment where growth isn't just expected, it's inevitable. A contagious identity is where power meets transformation. For more information, go to kevinbritz.com. All hands on deck. I love that. And I love that, the breakdown of the 5 Ps is the promise: product, process, people, and profit. I think, and you say that, Business Owner Breakthrough is the book that people can go, and that's available everywhere, right?
It's on Amazon, yes. It's also the name of my podcast, as you mentioned earlier. So I've got episodes on each one of those, as well as a variety of other things. But it's one of the common sort of pieces of the puzzle that I coach to. We have whole systems based on the 5 Ps and how you insert it into meeting structures and all sorts of different things. Yeah.
So, the next question I'm thinking, as you've been speaking through it, is sort of 2 parts, and leading to business owners who are or have really small teams and maybe micro enterprises, then maybe businesses who are slightly bigger and more ability to move around. What is the obvious advice, to both those areas of how do we start with this exit ready strategy? Because I'm thinking from a micro enterprise, that's probably far more challenging, but from a slightly bigger business, that might be a little bit easier. What are the 2 things or the 2 areas that those 2 areas of business could start focusing on?
Well, one of the things I do, Kevin, is I work with a lot of family businesses in family transfer from parents to kids. So a lot of next generation type plans too. So, whether you're transferring a business from next generation down to the next generation of the family, or whether it's to maybe from you to the managers that run the business currently and you're looking at a transfer there, or whether it's to an outsource person where you're actually selling the business, you have to start with the end in mind. And it doesn't matter if you're a micro business or if you're looking to grow the business. The idea here is your business a business or is it a job? That's where it starts. If it's a job, then fine. You're going to take your salary as you would working for someone else. But just remember that all of the risks that we were talking about and that go along with business ownership, you don't have when you work for someone else. So if all you're doing is making a wage type business, then you may want to consider actually going to work for someone else and not having all those risks. But if you're thinking with the end in mind and saying, I do want to grow this to a certain point and I do want to exit, well, there are lots of things that you can exit with and lots of different things to think about. If you're a service-oriented business, you're going to sell your client list, even if you are a solopreneur. It's like, I've got these clients, we've got this system, I built all these things, I've been through the 5 Ps, everything's in alignment. Somebody else can step in and run this business as I'm doing right now because everything is in alignment. That's sellable. And so when we think about all of these different things, if every contact is you, if every sale is you, if all the operational stuff is you, if all the human resources stuff is you, all of that, it's harder to sell. But ultimately, once we start adding these things on, the biggest piece of the puzzle, and most people here listening are business owners, 50% of the businesses out there are sold because they have to be sold, not because the owner wants them to be sold. And that's unfortunate. And I'll tell you, you probably know someone who has passed away prematurely, who has become disabled in some sort of way, whether it be cancer, whether it be a car accident, whether it be some sort of disease that's put them out of their business for an extended period of time that's caused distress within their business, and they've had to sell their business. You may have heard of one of your friends getting divorced. And divorce is a big cause of people exiting businesses. You may have heard of partnership disagreements. Lots of partnerships disagree and one partner has to leave, or both.
Yeah.
This is very common in the business world. 50% of businesses exit this way. So, and we have this mentality. We talked at the bat. It's like, you got to get up and go. You got to have that sort of drive and confidence and everything. But when these kind of things hit you, and they're unexpected, this is why you need to be exit ready. Because if you're not exit ready, if your business isn't running on rails, if things can't be done without you, you're losing all of the value that you've built in your business in a matter of months. And if that, for most small business owners, their business is worth a lot of times more than their house, more than their investment portfolio. They've put all of their money into their business. And if it's your biggest asset and you don't even know what it's worth and you're not protecting it through risk and liability and all these other things, you're leaving yourself at risk, and you're leaving your family and your loved ones at risk that maybe you're hoping to leave the money and all of the other things too, maybe even leave the entire business to. If you don't have your process right, if you don't have your people right, if you don't have your product right, if it isn't written down, systematized, if it isn't available for someone else to take over and take on, whether that's for you to keep the business down the road like we were talking about, or whether it's for you to sell the business because you choose to once you get to that level of profitability, it's like, okay, I think I'm ready to go. And, or maybe it's, I want to do something else. I'm still young. I'm not ready to retire, but I want to do something else. So I'm going to sell this business. We want to maximize the value with every decision that we make in our business so that it, just like a stock portfolio or just like your house or anything else that you have. And I find it sad that most small business owners don't even really understand the true value of their business, yet it's maybe in a lot of cases the most valuable thing in their portfolio.
Yeah, and I think what sticks out, and you're right, I do know of a number of people who some kind of tragedy has happened and they have to sell their business. But I think another big one, as you were speaking now, is the need to be needed. Very often business owners have that drive, and I think of a few business owners that I think of right now. It's very difficult for them to kind of leave their business and exit purely based on the fact that that need to be needed, it overwhelms and sort of leads with why it's almost their purpose, right? And you kind of go, so I mean, I'll throw it back at you. What is that? How do we make that mind shift? Because that part of that exit strategy for you to be able to be ready to exit, you have to be okay with not being needed. Or how does that show up?
It's an interesting thing. We sort of call it three legs of the stool. And one leg of the stool is your business actually exit ready? The other one is, are you financially ready personally to exit your business?
Yeah.
And the third piece, like you just said, is, are you mentally ready to exit your business? Have you built a plan? And I'll tell you, you can only, even if you exit with a nice, 10 or exit, whatever the case is, you can only golf so much. You can only travel so much. Like after that first year or two, you've been to the places you want to be. You've been on the golf course. You've gone skiing. You've done your sailing trips. Yeah, all the different things that you kind of, everybody says this is what I'm going to do in retirement. Well, what about the next 20 years? What about the next 30 years? And so one of the things that when I'm working with people, we always want to keep in focus, especially if they're nearing where they think they want to exit their business. What is the next step? And let's clarify that, because we can't bypass it. Most business owners bypass it. And it's like, oh yeah, I'll just golf more, or I'll spend more time at the cottage. Well, is that enough? Because for the last 30 years, you've spent 50, 60, 70 hours a week doing what you do, and now you're going to nothing. So is that going to be enough? And if it's not, we have some work to do. And even on the exit plan, maybe you sell your business, but you continue to work for a couple of years in a different sort of environment. Maybe not even within the business, maybe for another partner. Is that part of the exit plan for you? Like all of these different things have to come into play, because there's a statistic out there that it's around 70% of small business owners who exit their business are unsatisfied a year after they exit their business. And that's sad. Because they don't have an exit plan. They had an exit plan to get out of their business, but they don't have the life after plan. And sometimes it's got to do with money, because they didn't really understand or realize how much it costs to live life outside of a business. Because for the last 30, 40 years, they've lived life inside a business and had a car paid for and, had different things paid for along the way through the business. And now they don't. So there's that personal financing side of things that needs to really be adjusted and looked at and thought out. And, one of the people that I was talking to, he said, I never really even looked at the fact that a tank of gas costs $130. It just never even dawned on me. And now that I'm paying it out of my own pocket instead of the business pocket, it means something. And, so these kind of conversations need to get down there, because we have different gaps in the business and in our life and in what we want from our life. And the exit plan needs to sort of address those.
Yeah, I'm just looking through some of the questions you have on your profile as well. And one of the questions, I'm sure it's kind of reiterating what we've already spoken about, but it's, what does it mean to be exit ready, and why should every business owner care? And I think that's a sort of a spin on, like, understanding you should care. And but tell us why.
Yeah, I said it sort of in that last segment, which is really this idea that most people, their business is worth a big chunk of their overall portfolio. Yeah. And, part of what we do with the value builder system that we have on the Exit Ready Business website is that we, when you go and you take that assessment, it sort of gets your head around all of the different things that are going on with your business, so that you can then start thinking, oh, that isn't maybe up to where I need it to be, or this, I'm doing really good in this area. And all of these different things come out, and then you get a range of value of what your business could be worth were you to sell it. Because this is the biggest thing. Like I said, what your house is worth, give or take. Your neighbors sold their places, so it's more comparable. But you can't just take your buddies on the golf course's word that he sold his business 5 years ago that's somewhat similar to yours for a certain amount, so you should be able to get that too. It's not good enough. Like, I worked with a pet store owner recently who had been in business 25 years, has a good business, over $1 million, and doing well, all of that kind of stuff in sales. But she works 40, 50 hours a week. 60 hours a week a lot of times. And she said, I'm ready. My lease is coming up in 2.5 years. I'd like to be exited from that. I said, oh, that's a good amount of time, because it does take time to be exit ready. And I said, we can work with that and go through different things. But when we started pulling through her financials, she's making about $50,000 a year after all said and done, to work 50 hours a week as a business owner and take on all the risks. And I said, this isn't really a sellable business, because somebody can go and be a store manager for $50,000 and not pay you what you need. She goes, but I need $350,000 out of this business, because that's what I think it's worth. And I said, where did you get that number from? She said, well, that's what I need. And I said, well, what you need and what you're going to get are two different things. This is the gap that I'm talking about. And understanding the fact that the business is probably only worth maybe $150,000, not $350,000, is a big thing to that person at that stage of life, because she was ready to retire. Her husband had retired, and she's like, I'm at the stage I want to go, and I need this $350,000 to make the personal finances work for us and to enjoy our retirement. Well, wouldn't it be nice to know that 10 years earlier, or 20 years earlier, so that you can plan on those sort of things and not be hit 2 years ahead? Because I said, if we're going to do this, we need to really make some major shifts over the next year for you to exit at a higher point. And I don't even know that we can get to 350, but at the same time, we'll maximize it out. And she was it was like a bit of a slap in the face. And she said, well, I've been doing it 25 years. And I said, I appreciate that. But the new owner is here's the thing for anybody listening. Somebody who's going to look at your business has other alternatives. And if they have $1 million in their back pocket and they're going to slap $1 million down, they're going to look at your business, and they're going to look at others too, because it's a business. And they're also going to look at the stock market, and they're also going to look at real estate and see whether that's worth, and they're also going to look at all these other options to take their $1 million and make their life better. So why are they going to pick your business? That's why you need to be exit ready. You need to have the answer for that question. Why do you want my business? Why do you want, here's the business. This is the package that I put together. This is how it's given me my life that I live. And this is what it can give to you. Does that value equation work for you? And if it does, they'll put their money down.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's really speaking to why you should care, right? Why you should have, a concern of what does it look like? And I think the life after plan, I think, it really gets you to think. It's like, so if there were to be a life after this, like, what does that plan look like? And do I even have a plan? And very often people don't, right? With you speaking through this, and I'm just poking your brain, and I'm sure you're going to share some more here, but what are the 3 essential skills for every business owner to start mastering to ensure that they do start getting themselves ready for this exit strategy and this readiness to leave their business? What does that look like?
The foundation is that 5P structure, right? That's kind of operational for your business. The leadership level lies above that. And the leadership level is what I call the CMA. And the CMA, these 3 skills. The first one is be a better communicator. Do everything you can do as a leader to learn more about becoming a better communicator. Both, like, to all 3 of those level of people, to your client, to your team, and to your suppliers, so that you can communicate the promise always and forever, so that everybody knows around you why they are here. Communication is the most important thing that a leader can do, because nobody can pick your brain. You need to let it out. And most business owners have an issue with that. They don't let it out. And if they do let it out, sometimes they let it out in the wrong way. And that doesn't work either. So it's proper communication. The next piece is management. And when we look at management, so it's the CMA, and that's not your chief marketing or any of these other things. It's communication, management, and accountability. So the management piece is look at those 5 Ps and manage them, oversee them. And the idea here is we're going from detail to dashboard. So the detail of running all that stuff and doing all the little bitsy things, you can't do that. You're going to hit a ceiling. You're going to hit your mental capacity, and you won't be able to, and your business won't grow. Other people need to make those decisions. Remember, decisions need to be made at the lowest possible level. So if they're made at the lowest possible level because we have good process in place and good people in place, then all we really need are the dashboard metrics at that management level. And if the dashboard is green, we don't have to look at it. If it's yellow, we got to start looking at it. And if the dashboard's red, it's like, this is where I need to get into the detail with my team. That's the management structure. And then the last piece that a lot of small business owners, a lot of managers, and as a general rule, don't do well is accountability. And it's one thing to give people titles on your organizational chart or your accountability chart I like to use. Titles are one thing, but true accountability is what I'm talking about. And, I have lots of the frameworks, and one of my frameworks is called the 4 A's of accountability, and it's called assess it, address it, align it, and assign it. And when we're looking at something that we want to take off of our plate, we assess it. What is it? Oh, I want to get rid of bookkeeping. Address it. Oh, I don't have my process in order, so I got to fix that up before I get rid of it. Align it. Who in my team or an outsourced partner could actually do this? Assign it. Here, it's now your accountability, which means I'm not doing it anymore. It's yours. Give me the dashboard. You're now the detail person, and I need these 3 metrics from you every week, every month, every day, whatever the case is, because that's the dashboard I need to do my job. So when we start looking from a leader's perspective of the CMA on top of those 5 Ps, you're owning the CMA, and basically you're overseeing the 5P structure in your business with those dashboard metrics. And building that dashboard is really important, and it will change through time, because at certain times, certain things are going to be more important and less important in your business, depending on the seasonality of your business or where your business is or the growth of your business, a variety of different things. So the dashboard, your leader's dashboard, does change through time. Of course, there's key metrics that you're always going to look at, but there's these other pieces that kind of ebb and flow in and out of your leadership dashboard that are pertinent to what it is that you're working on at any given time. And that's the CMA that you need to really work on: communication, management, and accountability.
Yeah, and I love this. It's so eloquent the way you put that.
Thank you.
From my perspective as a coach, I'm all about human behavior. Humans love a structure, and I see this in every capacity where you're dealing with human beings. when you give them a simplified structure with some kind of strategy to follow, it's almost like they just connect those dots. But you kind of go, when you don't do it in that, and I mean, the simple structure that you've given around the CMA, the communication, management, accountability, your 4 A's of assess, address, align, and assign. When it's simple and easy to follow, it's a quick, obvious way to kind of get your brain tapped in on it. For the last question that I have, Peter, I think because with 30 years experience, I'm sure you have so many wonderful stories, but what is, if you could share with us a really amazing success story that, with someone who's worked with you, someone that you've actually taken through this journey, give us something, just to wow the listeners out there, because it's always good to, to hear people's success and, how they started where they were, applying an exit strategy, and suddenly they have this whole new life. What are some of your stories, or a story that you can think of to share?
There are lots. I mean, I had these conversations quite a bit. Last night, 12 hours ago, as we record this, I was on a webinar with a group of dance school owners, their mastermind group, and the same sort of thing. I work with them once a quarter or thereabouts as we roll through these different ideas, because like I said, it does take time to get things going. But to me, the success stories are when somebody kind of, you see on the screen when they're in that group and they're like, oh my gosh, this is hitting home. So I've been working with a gentleman on an ongoing basis now, and he has a web store in North America. He's south of Chicago, and they sell musical instruments in North America. And about 5 years ago, he decided to open a manufacturing plant in India to manufacture these, and truly the month before COVID. He couldn't get over there, even though the plant was getting going and they're hiring 25 luthiers to build these instruments, all this sort of stuff. When we started working together, it was, he didn't have a lot of process in place. He had some people in place. He had some product development. He didn't really have his network built out. He was going to use the products for his own web store sales. Since that, he's built his business. They've grown in India. They've taken over another facility. They've hired a bunch more people. We have worked through international wholesale, and he's got wholesalers in Germany and in Australia and England. He's built out a wholesale network that we've helped him through and work. And we continue to work on this ongoing basis to build the value in his business, because being exit ready, he's not exit ready yet. As far as mindset of actually wanting to exit his business. But I can tell you his business is so much more exit ready. We've built all that stuff around it so that he can show the value, he can show the profit, he can answer those due diligence questions if somebody were to approach him and say, you know what, I love your brand of instruments, I love your retail store, which is a different brand. He's just added a new building in the town where he's going to run all retail operations out of for North America. He's growing this business, his entity, both in physical properties and on digital and online, in his people, in his process, all of these different things. And he's grown the value of his business. And that's what I want for people listening here, because he's worked through these different stages. When I started working with him, he answered every sales call. He took his kids to Florida. They went to Florida for a month, and he said, I really didn't talk to my team all that much. And this is at a time where they just bought a brand new building and going through moving the whole shop over to this new building. And he's like, yeah, the guys will get it done. And that's the idea here, is that, you want to be, there are only so many decision-making juices that you, the business owner, have in a given day. That's why Steve Jobs wore black every day. It's like, I don't want to waste my time on trying to pick out an outfit. I got big decisions to make. And when you think about these sort of things, we need to be spending our time on the biggest decisions, both for our lives and our families. And that's why you want to be exit ready. That's why you want to have these things working. And if it's 10 years down the road, you still need to start that process. And that process is giving you more freedom. That process is helping you enjoy your life. That process is helping you grow your business. And that process is helping everyone else around you and in the ecosystem of your business understand what it is that all ties back to that very first thing, the promise, what it is you do, how you can take them through their pain and give them a better life. Because that's when the transfer of dollars happen. And that's when you have a business.
I love that. Yeah. And it's such a good story when you hear so many people are so invested in to the detail of answering the phone and sending a quote and doing all the things. And for someone to start implementing some of these strategies and creating more value, like you say, and creating more structures, it's amazing. Pete, so if you want to leave the audience today with just a sentiment or some advice, what would you leave them with, and what would that be?
I think the biggest thing is you've worked hard in your business and you've built it to whatever stage it's at now. Take a half an hour this week and go back to the drawing board. Where do you want this business to go? What do you want it to do for you in your life? Jot it down on a piece of paper. Get some clarity around the things that have really gone well and the things that haven't, so that you can make the changes over the next quarter, year, 3 years, whatever the case it is, because some of these changes take time. But if you don't write them down, you don't acknowledge them, you're never going to do it. And 3 years is going to be by, and you're going to say, I should have done that 3 years ago. So all of these things that we've been talking about today take time. You need to take time to think about these things, put them into some sort of structure so that you can act upon them. You can't just spend your time putting out the fires at work every day. It's not the way to build value. It's not the way to be exit ready. And when you think of it, you're building this business for your life and for the lives of your family, to better your family and all of the other things why we get into business, your legacy. So take that step up out of the micromanaging of your business, take that step up to legacy, and think about that a little bit so that you can start putting these things in place. Use the structures we've talked about. Write down those 5 Ps, write your notes beside them. Look at the CMA. How am I going to improve my communication? How am I going to improve my management structure? How am I going to improve my accountability in my business so that I can leave a better business and have more value in the business, so that when I am ready to exit the business, whenever that is, whether it's 2 years from now, 20 years from now, it's ready to go at the maximum amount of value. And that's what I'm hoping for everybody here today.
Yeah, and I love it. And I think, you use the word legacy, and I think it's so important because at the end, especially when you have a business, it's such a proud moment if you can leave it behind, and if you've left something for people who are, family who are going to come after. He's coaching business leaders through chaos and confusion to create the businesses and the lives they deserve. Pete Mohr, how do we get hold of you? If everyone's like listening, it was like, I need to speak to this guy. Where do we go? What do we do?
Well, the best way is just go to my main website, which is Pete-Mohr, MOHR.com. So Pete-Mohr, MOHR.com. And from there, you'll get the Exit Ready business and Simplifying Entrepreneurship and the Kolbe Coach. I'm a Kolbe Coach too. So I have other sub websites under there, depending on which area you want to delve into. And I'd love to have a conversation with anyone here about any of those things. As I mentioned to you off the bat, I just love talking business. And thanks so much for having me here today, Kevin.
Fantastic. I love that. Guys, if you want to find out more, we will put all those links in the description boxes below. And yeah, Pete, thank you so much for just unpacking some thinking around, the frames of what business owners are doing and how they could become exit ready. We're looking forward, and go and check out that book and the website, guys, Business Owner Breakthrough. It's on Amazon. And Pete, thank you for sharing some wisdom and insights with us. And please come back to have more discussion.
I'd love to. Make it a great day, Kevin.
You too. Have a fantastic one. I'll chat to you soon. Thanks for now.